G'day gang, welcome to The Hidden Why. My name's Leigh Martinuzzi, the host of this show, The Hidden Why Guy, here to inspire you to live your life with greater passion and purpose. Guys, whether you're at THY TV or The Hidden Why podcast, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the show. I hope you're enjoying all the episodes that I'm sharing and bringing out. It's certainly showing the numbers are increasing. So yeah, to all of you, thank you very much. It's grateful, that people are tuning in and listening to what I've got to say. It's not always that valuable, I agree. Some shows are better than others, but certainly it seems to be the case that people are tuning in and people are listening. So that's really cool. I just want to encourage you on that note to take the time out. If you've got any questions or comments or thoughts, maybe feedback for the show, to reach out to me. You can connect with me at Facebook or Twitter. You can message me there. My email address is also available at thehiddenwhy.com, so you can check that out as well. So guys, yeah, thank you once again. It's really an honor that I get to express myself, express what I'm learning, experiencing, and just express my thoughts to help inspire other people to live their life more truly, because that's what it's about for me. I really want to, aim towards reducing the suffering in my life. I want to aim towards reducing the suffering or the impact that I have on other people's lives. And I want to inspire people to reduce their own suffering and find more happiness in life and find more happiness in the life that they truly desire. And I believe that's a life that you can create by connecting within, creating your why, and then, traveling the journey, which is your own, towards greater freedom, fulfillment, and happiness. So anyway, that's enough intro there, guys. This is my solo show. So every Monday I get to share a thought, something that I've been thinking about, something to help inspire you. And today that thought is of one which is why we should treat life like a holiday. And just think about that for a second. What if you considered your life like a holiday? Now, I know immediately the thoughts that are going to come up is that, how's that possible? That's not realistic. Yeah, right. Easier said than done. I've got bills to pay. I've got a job. I've got to work, etc., etc. I understand all that, and I absolutely agree. All those things will come to mind, and that's simply out of how we've created society and the expectations around how we think we should live life. But I like the thought of thinking of life like a holiday. Like, you think about a holiday, and when you go on a holiday, how do you feel on a holiday? Like, how do you really feel? For me, if I can share my experiences of going on holidays, the lead up to the holiday is just awesome because you just can't wait. You've got that anticipation going. I guess that's helping the dopamine flood the brain and really giving us that sense of happiness. So it's that anticipation up to that holiday. And then we go on holidays and we feel really good. And you've got to ask yourself, why? Why do we feel so good on holidays? Well, for one, we're not working. So a lot of us don't like what we do, perhaps. Perhaps we don't like to work. And, my thoughts are on that is that I don't believe anyone doesn't like to work. I believe we all like to do stuff, but perhaps we just don't have the right work. Perhaps we're just not doing the right work. And certainly that's going to make us feel better when they're on the holiday because we're away from that thing that sort of brings us down that we don't totally enjoy. So that makes sense of why we feel good on holidays. But you've got to think about why else we feel good on holidays. Well, for one, we're having a new experience. We're not in our sort of stable zone. We're stepping outside that zone and really, just having that variety, which I think is a bit of spice to life. So there's that. We get to learn when we're on holidays. We get to have new experiences, and that's always brings about learning as well. We get to experience new cultures if we travel to different countries. Depending on what we're doing, we get to have some learnings as well. We get to have learnings within. We get to have more self-time, and self-time is critical. It allows us time to assess who we are, what we're all about, what we want to do, what we want to achieve. It's really refreshing, and that's why we feel so good on holidays, because we get more time for ourselves in the modern society, and with our jobs and everything that's going on, all that stuff that we're expected to be doing day to day, it sort of takes us away from that self-time. So I think that's why we feel good on holidays as well. We're away from distractions. We're out of our normal environment. There are so many benefits that happen when we go on holidays that it's just profound. But the problem is that the holidays are limited to, either 2 days a week if you have 2 days off a week, or 1 day a week when you have 1 day off. That's a holiday. essentially. Or when you go on a holiday for a couple of weeks at a time, or even longer, 4 weeks, 5 weeks at a time, whatever length of holidays you might have per year. But the problem is then we all fall back, and it's just like this roller coaster of ups and downs, and we just can't wait until that next weekend. We just can't wait until that next holiday. And then when it comes, it goes, and we jam pack as much as we can into that little period, and then it comes back to the grind, and it just seems like that up and down. And that's, I think, a critical problem with modern society, and I don't know if I have a solution for it. I potentially don't, but I believe that more and more rapidly we're going to have to find solutions for it, because society's changing. The way we do things, the way we live our lives is definitely changing. You look at the work landscape these days, it's profoundly changing. The robotics, the machinery, just taking over a lot of the jobs that we used to have, and that's replacing us. And so we have to find other ways to work and make a living. And that's the fact of the society is we live in a marketplace, and to keep that marketplace alive and keep going, we have to keep consuming. And to do that, we have to keep, earning a living so we can keep being part of that. And we have to keep earning a living just so we can accommodate our basic needs. What I also believe is that as we keep consuming, not only have we been able to meet our basic needs quite easily, but we've created more needs, like the needs, and they're not even needs, they're just desires, they're wants. The needs to have, an extra bedroom in the house. When I grew up, we had quite a great big house, and when my parents grew up, it wasn't that big, and it seems to be bigger and bigger as the generations pass, and what goes into those houses seems to be more and more. The flat screen TVs, the surround sounds, the bits and pieces, they're all great, they're all very cool, technological advances, but are they limiting us, and are they limiting to how we can truly live our life? Well, I sort of think they perhaps are. And perhaps it's because we're not really treating our life like a holiday. But what if we treated our life like a holiday? How could we turn things around? How could we flip things on its head and actually have that feeling of like we're on a holiday all the time? Well, I think there's a few things that we could do. And it's not to say that you're going to go out there and quit your job and suddenly things are going to be dandy and you're going to be on a holiday. But just think about how you'd be different, how you'd think different, how would you do things different if it were a holiday. So I want to raise to you a few points, and I've just taken a few notes down here about, treating your life like a holiday. Before I get there, I just want to talk about the transition of our life, and this is something that I've learned from a good book called Sapiens recently. It's by the author Yuval Noah Harari, and he's written this book, Sapiens. It's a fantastic look at the historic, biological, and evolutionary sort of view of life and how we've become to be who we are today. And I think when you look at the history, it sort of gives us clues as to what's been the good moves and what's been the bad moves, and perhaps what's been great for our advancement, but also what's been put us at disadvantage to how we're currently living our lives. And for me, when I look at the world stats and depression and suicide and all that sort of stuff, that stuff gets to me. I just wonder, is our life really that great if that's what's happening? We're just, taking our own lives. If we're falling into depression, we're relying on, drugs and stimulants to get us out of the funk that become absolutely necessary day by day just to keep our attitudes and head above the water. I just don't feel like that's the worthy existence. And being one that's, prone to depression, yeah, I get that. I'm not a big person. I've never gone deep into depression, but I certainly, I feel it. I get what it must feel like to those people that do go deep there. So I can relate. And that's sort of something that I want to try and help change. And I've done that myself. I'm trying to continue to do that, to change that so I can live with that greater meaning, fulfillment, and happiness that just is essential for life. I think it's essential for what this experience is all about. Like, otherwise, what's the purpose? Why would you spend, 30% of your life or 50% of your life doing stuff that really doesn't give you that meaning? I just think it's wasteful. So to think about life like a holiday might just help us just ask those questions. And it might be a weird approach to thinking about life, but it's certainly sometimes the weird approaches are the best ways to think about things. So what happens when you think about life like a holiday? Well, first of all, you decide where you want to go. So when you go on a holiday, you don't rely on your family or your peers or society to say, hey, Leigh, you're going to go on a holiday? Well, here's where you're going to go. See you later. You decide on where you want to go. You make that decision. You say, that's where I want to go because I want to have those experiences. And that's what's really important about treating life like a holiday as it relates to our current life. Is the life you're living one that you've decided on, or is it one that you've just taken into or just been placed into or just sort of felt was necessary because of the expectations or the external expectations that are around you? It's likely that that's the case. So a lot of us go into that. I mean, I've talked about that in previous episodes. So think about it like a holiday. If this was your holiday, what would you be doing? And how would that make your day-to-day actions different? How would that make your purpose here different? I guarantee everyone would say, well, I'd be doing something different. If that's the case, then why aren't you? I get that there's limitations. I get there's, circumstance and certain situations that some of us are unfortunately in at the moment that may not be conducive to suddenly making all that happen and living that life. But I believe it is possible. I believe we can find that level of balance, that lifestyle that we want, that's more a decision of our own rather than a decision of some sort of external expectation. So that's number one. When you think about planning a holiday, or when you think about taking a holiday, you decide on where you want to go. The next thing is really that planning stage. What do you do next when you go on a holiday? Well, if you say, okay, I'm going to go to Vietnam on my next holiday, the next thing you do is you decide on some of the experiences. What do you want to achieve? What are your goals out of that holiday? That's what life should be like, Decide on what your journey will look like, and then have a look at, on that journey, what do you want to experience? And that's how we should perhaps approach life. I think if we can say, hey, that's where I want to go, and these are the experiences I want to have, we're more prone to taking more purposeful action to achieve those goals. What happens at the moment, I believe, for many of us, is that we don't really decide on exactly the journey that we want to go on. We just take the journey that's been given to us, or the one that's expected, and we go on that journey, and we don't even really consider the experiences that we want to have on that journey. We just do it, and then we find ourselves having or doing the experiences necessary to uphold the quality of living that we've created. So the house, the mortgage, the cars, etc. The outings that we have come to expect to just occur in our lives. And I don't know if that's the most conducive way to live. So if you were to decide on where you want to go, your journey, and then the experiences you want to have, you might be a little bit more purposeful in what is required to take you on that trip, or what is required for you to do to have those experiences. You might be a bit more critical and thoughtful about that, rather than just going on it and just going sort of with the flow and taking it as it comes. So I think that's another reason why it's really cool to think about life like a holiday. The next thing is you pack accordingly, don't you? You don't go on a holiday and just, pack everything you can. You pack what is necessary for the holiday. Now, some of us will probably pack more things than others. Some of us may not. And I think that's something that we have to consider. Like, what are you going to pack? Who are you going to take with you? What is necessary for your journey? What is necessary for you to have those experiences? Don't overpack. Don't take the unnecessary. A word from the minimalist, have what you need that is necessary for your existence and your experience. And that's enough. The problem with our life is that because we've become so set in one location, we just accumulate things, we hoard things, and we do it for a number of reasons. We do it, I think, for number one is because it makes us feel like we're getting somewhere, where we've got progression, because, hey, look, I've now got a flat screen TV. Now I've now got 2 flat screen TVs. It makes us feel like we're somehow progressing in our otherwise stagnant sort of lives. I feel we also hoard because it's in our nature. Like when we used to see a tree full of fruit, we used to just indulge. And we still indulge, to this day and age. We did it back then, basically because we didn't want anyone else to take it. And we sort of do the same now. When we see something, we grab it and we keep it. And we don't want to let go because we feel like we'll be missing out on a part of ourselves when we do let go. If you're treating it like your holiday, you're not going to take all that unnecessary stuff. You'll take what is necessary. And I think that's a really cool way to look at life like a holiday, is because it gives us that ability to question, well, what's necessary and what's not. And I think that's really critical to living a fulfilling life. Like, what is really necessary? We get upset about ourselves. We're sort of driven by our work, and, hey, I need to work because I need this stuff, and I want this, and I want that experience, and blah, blah, blah. But is it all really necessary to taking us on that journey that we want to go on? Probably not. We probably just haven't really thought about it differently. And if we start to think about it differently, maybe we'll say, well, hang on, that isn't really necessary for me. So maybe that means I can reduce some hours there, or maybe that means I could absolutely do a different job that's more aligned with what I love to do and still earn enough to have the journey that I want to have, you know? Perhaps that's the case. I mean, each of us have to base that decision on where we are now in our circumstances and situations, but we can all apply the same sort of principle to our lives, no matter where we are. So we pack accordingly. Pack friends, like pack the people that are conducive to your journey, you know? You're not going to take some friends that you don't like to hang out with. And same with your journey. You shouldn't take friends on your journey of life that aren't conducive to how you want to live life, that aren't conducive to your progression, your health, your growth, your expression, you know? You shouldn't take those people with you. So that's that point. The next point is you when you go on the journey, you do what you need to do. You don't, you know, when we go on a holiday, we don't know exactly how we're going to get around and do everything. We go there, we've got some sort of plan. Some of us have greater plans than others. I'm one of those people that like to travel without much of a plan, quite loosely. And once I get there, just try and figure things out and search for the how as such. Some people like to go on a tour. They like to be part of a tour, so it's a bit more planned out and rigid for them and certain. And that's fine too. There's that piece of certainty and uncertainty there. But still, when they get there, even if they're on the tour, they still have to figure out how things work. You know, they're still creating those new learnings based on the new experience. And I think that's how we need to approach life too. Like, you don't need to have everything mapped out. You never will have everything mapped out. Just go for it. Know what your journey is. Know the experiences you want. And then step into that darkness. And when you do, it'll brighten up, and slowly you'll see more and more. And then you'll figure out the how. I just listened to an interview with Adam Braun, who was the creator of Pencils for Promise. And he shared his story about how he set up that company, and he had no idea about how to set up a non-for-profit organisation that's now built 400 schools around the world in third world communities. He had the idea, he had the desire within. That's what he wanted to do. He said, "Look, that's the experience I want. It just means something to me to help other people by building schools." And he went out there, and I can't remember exactly the story, but I don't think he even really had the idea to grow it into a company. I think someone encouraged him to do that and said, you know, you've got more in you than just one school. You've got it in you to do a whole network of schools. But, you know, that's he went out there and he just figured out the how as he came along. And that's the next thing to the piece. Like, when you go on your journey, yeah, it requires support. Yeah, you're not going to sail to Vietnam by yourself. You'll generally get on an airline. You'll pay a bit of money to get on that airline. You know, you might go on a few tours. You'll rely on tuk-tuks. You rely on a tour guide. You rely on people there at reception at the hotel or accommodation. You rely on other people that you meet along the way, people that have had the experience already, to give you advice, to give you suggestions on where you might want to travel to. And that's the same with life. We have to approach life with that. There's people out there to assist us, to help us on our journey. And we just have to ask the questions, ask for the help, and seek it out. You know, and you'll do that as long as you know where you want to go. Because if you don't know where you want to go, well, you're just going to go with the flow, aren't you? You're not going to really search out the best help and assistance as you require. So